All right, guys. Hello, hello. All right. Hey, guys. Manny here from 2000 Books, and today I'm here at this conference called 90 Day Year Live, and I decided since you guys have been talking a lot about how to connect with people, I figured we're going to be talking about how to connect with people with a bunch of people that I've been making friends with here, and this is my good friend John Sonmez from Simple Programmer from John Sonmez, and then we have Alex, who is
From Sway Marketing.
she's a digital marketing strategist, and Ferry,
Very freelance app developer.
freelance app developer. So we're going to be talking about how to connect with people. We're going to be talking about a lot of great books. By the way, right now, my first tip, my favorite tip on connecting with people is to be able to figure out what is it that they want the most. To be able to figure out what is it that they want the most. And this is from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Always be thinking about what is it that the other person needs. Always be trying to figure out how can I help them rather than thinking about what's in it for me. Because every time you think about what's in it for me, you set yourself up for failure because you really are only thinking about one person. But when you're thinking about what's in it for them, you're actually thinking about a lot more people. And this is probably the timeless principle in the book Art of People. Dave Kirkman talks about it's way more powerful to be interested than to be interesting. To be interested in their affairs, to be interested in what people need help with rather than to be interesting. So that was my first thing on how to connect with people. John, what's your thing?
So mine would be to learn to be vulnerable, especially if you're in a situation where you're meeting a new person. Like one of the fastest ways to develop any kind of connection or relationship with them is to actually reveal something about yourself that might be embarrassing, that might be a little bit more personal. But the key to doing this is to do it in a way that doesn't project weakness but projects strength. So one example I always use is in the movie Braveheart, where they lift up their skirts and show their butts. Right, it's kind of like turning to the enemy, and it's like you're revealing sort of a sensitive part of yourself. But the reason why they're doing it is because they're so confident, they have so much strength that they are actually able to reveal a vulnerability. And so when you actually reveal a vulnerability out of strength, not out of weakness, right? And obviously there's two. You can notice when someone's revealing a vulnerability out of weakness, it actually projects more strength, and it causes the other person to feel an instant connection with you. A good example of this is just at this event, there was a speaker up there that revealed this very checkered past where his father was basically a pimp, and there was a lot of very graphical stories.
Yeah, that was J.D. McCormick, who is the CEO of Book in a Box, in the sense he helps publishers, or he helps authors publish books. But yeah, he has a crazy freaking story. But the reason why we all connected with him was because he was totally honest, totally vulnerable. He told us the real freaking deal. And it's like a paradox, right?
Right.
What is truly vulnerable is also probably the strongest thing.
Exactly.
When you are, the beauty of vulnerability is when you are truly vulnerable, you are saying this is it, this is the worst of me. Now, if you decide not to, this is it. If I can expose this, now it's not such a big deal anymore. Now this is real.
It's
this
like
is who I
the
am.
source of your strength.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Because you're exposing completely. Now you have nothing to hide.
Right, and that can only come from a place of strength. Someone who fears their past or fears a weakness, considers a weakness, doesn't talk about it, or talks about it in an apologetic way, as opposed to, hey, I can do something stupid and laugh at it, right? That's the ultimate, oh, I'm such a nerd, right? Those kind of things. And one good book to tie it into I guess with the book in the box, but is Brene Brown Staring Greatly. She talks a lot about vulnerability. She actually did a TED Talk talking about this as well, which is really good. But to understand that concept, especially I'll tell you guys out there, right, as kind of the masculinity, right, that vulnerability is totally different than a weakness, right? Mm-hmm. Showing weakness is not necessarily something that's attractive. Definitely not a good thing, in general. Right?
I think
you don't want to meet people and be weak, but you want to be vulnerable.
There is a difference there, right? Showing weakness just for the sake of showing weakness is weak.
Right.
But if you really don't have that agenda, and if you're being true to yourself, and you really are able to say, hey, this is a weakness, this is a pain, this is a frustration I have, then you're real. You're actually able to draw in the reality from the other person. People are able to connect on the reality that, yeah, this is a problem, this is a weakness this person might have today, and hopefully they will figure out a way, or maybe this is a very universal thing that we all have, right?
Right,
Our
right.
pains and frustrations are usually the most natural part of what everyone else is also going through.
But that's part of it, what creates the connection. Because people think,
Yeah.
oh wait, you know, like you're sharing this and I'm not alone in this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I'm not alone in this. That's the key. Okay, Alex, so what do you think?
Well, mine also is from How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's just listen. So forget what you want to talk about, forget your pitch and your elevator pitch, forget all of that, and just make sure that you really are listening to the person that you're talking to, and you can kind of pull all of the nuggets of what they need and how you can connect with them better after you listen. After you listen to them, listening is really the very first thing. So yeah, that'd be my favorite.
Yeah, listening is like it's one of those things that you can. It's the easiest thing to do in the world, by the way. It's way easier than talking, because talking you can run out of shit to say, but listening you can never run out of.
I could
things
never
to
never run out of shit to say.
No.
But I do understand that listening is important.
Yeah, listening is like so much easier.
Yeah.
But it is also one of the most giving things we can do to someone. Like one of the most, I think I was reading Brene Brown yesterday, The Gifts of Imperfection, and she said in there somewhere that one of the most important things we can do for people is to be present for them, to be able to give our full attention to them in the moment and listen to them. That is the most, that is when we are telling them that I respect you, I truly honor you, I truly honor your presence, and that's the ultimate essence of respecting someone and saying, hey, I want to get to know you.
I want to hear you and listen to your story.
Yeah. All right, you.
Well,
let's talk about it.
To tie into the listening, this is from Love is the Killer app.
Love is the Killer app by Tim Sanders. That's the book we're talking about.
Exactly. And so what he said, to connect it to the conference, when connecting to people, or when you listen to them, you might realize that, well, there's no direct value for you to bring, but it exposes what they call weak ties. So you might know somebody else
Yeah.
who you can connect with that person later on. So you provide value by sort of weak ties, and so the listening and figuring out how can I help this person, not necessarily myself, but with other people in my network.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so important. Like, we're thinking not just about how can I help myself, but how can I constantly try to figure out what is
So
it.
you're actually helping two people then.
Yeah.
Because you're connecting two different people, and they can do business together. So
Yeah, that's so important. Like, a lot of the times your connections aren't really about you directly doing business with someone, but when you connect to people, they're still part of your connection. They will always think of you, because they will always think of, oh, the fact that Ferry connected me to that person, so now in some ways they are still kind of indebted to you because of that connection. And it's still working in their background, in their mind, and they're thinking about how they can, again, like, in some ways it comes back to you.
exactly. Yeah.
So carrying on, I think one other one that I like a lot is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And today we're at lunch, and a bunch of us, actually, John, myself, Ferry, Dan Martel, we're all there. Why? We're actually practicing the principles of Never Eat Alone, which is, rather than constantly thinking about just being by yourself or anything like that, which is very true for introverts like me, it's so much better if we're out trying to make those small gestures to connect with people. Like Dan Martel, who is the founder of what's it called? What's his channel now? Dan Martel's channel. But he teaches people on how to grow their SaaS startups, software as a service startups, on YouTube. So he just came up to us and said, hey, you guys want to go for lunch? And from that we had a great conversation. All of us got to connect just over lunch, and we get to talk. And that is an easy initiative for him to take. He's been practicing that, but it's a really, really, really powerful thing to do, to be able to go up to connect with people and say, let's get together for lunch, dinner. I like to host these dinner parties. I'd like to do a lot more of them, but that's something that's really good to do, to be able to constantly host events, even small event. Maybe it's like 5 people or 6 people. You connect with them and you get them together and talk about. You guys ever do that?
Yeah.
No.
I know Dan advocates that very strongly.
Yeah, it is one of his pillars of why he is such one of the biggest connectors.
And
in
then
this
also
area.
the questions that he likes to ask is that, like, what's your biggest challenge right now? Because there might be somebody else on the table who can actually help with that as well. So that's also a way of connecting people with the information that's shared with.
Yeah, again,
on the dinner.
we're going back to the idea of like how can we figure out what's in it for them,
Yeah, exactly.
rather than what's in it for me. Keep going back to the same idea. By the way, so the books we talked about right now: Never Eat Alone, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Daring Greatly.
Yeah. Love is the killer app.
How to win friends and influence people.
So now you know what to go and read, guys. All right, talk to you later.
Speaking
Bye
of
bye.
dinner, I'm hungry.
Okay, so
Well, now first video done.
there you go.
100 more.
There you go.